Hi everyone, thanks for joining us tonight for this PD in your PJs session. We are thrilled that you are joining us and taking time out of your busy schedule to learn a little bit more about Seesaw and integrating it in your classroom. A few notes before we begin. You should hear us talking now. You are in listen-only mode. You do have the ability to type in questions if you have them. We are going to focus on answering your questions at the end, but just note that I'm Angela and I work for Seesaw. I've been a kindergarten teacher for 15 years, so I'll be manning the questions while our presenter is sharing all of her amazing ideas. So if you do have them throughout the presentation, you can type them in. We will save questions being answered by our wonderful host for the end. Also note that the slides and the recording of this webinar will be emailed to you if you registered for this session. Otherwise, you can find, of course, all of our slides and recordings on our website as well. So I am beyond thrilled to introduce to you tonight Shelly Fryer. Shelly is a teacher, author, speaker, and advocate for children. She teaches 3rd and 4th grade students at Positive Tomorrows, Oklahoma's only elementary school specifically for homeless children. Shelly's passion is helping her students love learning. She believes student learning in the classroom should be engaging. Shelly encourages students to make choices about how they learn best. With over 20 years of teaching experience, Shelly has taught in an iPad one-to-one classroom since 2013. She believes students need to understand their voice matters and can be shared with others beyond the walls of their classroom. She maintains an active classroom website and was named a PBS Digital Innovator in 2015. Shelly was also selected by PBS as one of 4 teachers nationally to address the annual PBS Broadcasters Conference in Chicago in May 2016. Shelly is an Oklahoma A+ Schools Network Fellow and works to bring arts integration strategies into her classroom. She's also a passionate advocate for maker education in the classroom and provides frequent opportunities for her students to create, make, and learn in their classroom maker studio. She presents regionally and nationally at education and educational technology conferences, and of course is a Seesaw ambassador. So I'm thrilled that Shelly is here tonight with us, speaking specifically about creating a classroom community. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pass this presentation over to Shelly. She has amazing slides that she is going to share with us here tonight. Note that, again, you will be able to type in questions for Shelly to answer at the end of this presentation. So Shelly, looks good. I see your screen. We're all set.
All right, great, Angela. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I am very excited to present tonight and share just a little bit about my unique student population. My goal is to definitely leave a few minutes at the end of this because I really would encourage you to ask questions and dig in a little deeper about how we can support students in the classroom. So in my classroom, classroom community really matters. It's the goal of what I do is to help students love learning again. And I've been using Seesaw for 4 years. And I feel like I'm really beginning to dive in deep with it. It's exciting. I love the community that Seesaw has built, and I love what it does for my classroom. First, I want to start off with a great Seesaw story. So in our classroom, one of the things I've learned from the community is how to create a book club. And so we have started a book club in our classroom on Wonder. We're reading Wonder right now by R.J. Palacio, and we've just started learning how to make comments. So I just now turned on comments, allow students to make comments. And so we've talked about building that classroom community, supporting our learning. And we've talked about comments need to be positive, they need to be specific, they need to start conversations. So we're reading Wonder, and one of the things in Wonder is the little boy has a space helmet. And if you haven't read the book, I highly suggest it. It's about a little boy that has some severe facial anomalies. We've been talking about bullying and kindness and how we treat each other, so it's been kind of a part of that big umbrella lesson. I found this video from a teacher, and I wish I could give him attribution, but he's collected a lot of visuals, and one of the movie clips that he shared in this chapter is of a link. This is a movie. I'm not going to play it for you, but it's by Chris Hadfield, who is a Canadian astronaut, and he was playing David Bowie's song. So this is the first recording of music that we know of in space. And it was a part of, just providing that song and that music and that sense of wonder. And so we viewed this link together, and then later I added that link into the Seesaw student folder for wonder, and then we practiced making comments. And so what I love about these comments is, even though we've focused on spelling and punctuation, to me that doesn't matter. It's the things that the students share, and they love this song. I love it because it was filmed in space. I like the song because I think space is interesting. I just think it was a great opportunity for us to share, to start a conversation, and definitely to use emojis, thanks to book snaps, because my students think that those are really cool. So this was a great first opportunity at leaving comments using a really unique video, and so I think it really worked out well. So our outline for today is, what is a classroom community, and why is that community important, and then how do we build that classroom community with Seesaw? What you see here on the right is our classroom community. This is an activity we did at the beginning of the classroom. It's based on Margaret Weiss Brown's book, The Important Book, and we wrote this together. It was one of the first things we identified. What is our community, and what do we want our community to look at? Also on the left, we have our school motto. We say this every morning in our morning meeting, and today specifically we had a great discussion about who I am makes a difference. And we had a great discussion about the person that they are. The gifts and talents that they bring to our classroom are unique, and we need all of their voices. And so, every day we go over this motto, and we think about how it's going to make a difference in our day currently. So what is a classroom community? When you are dealing with students in poverty, and in our case deep poverty, 100% of my students are homeless. So they come from the local mission, the local homeless shelter, or they're living at United Way, or the YWCA, which is a domestic violence center, or they're living in hotels, or they're living on somebody else's couch, or I have one who was actually living in a grandmother's laundry room, so a family of 4. So we have a lot of don't haves, and there's a lot of things that my students, their life is just different. They don't have family pictures a lot of times. They don't have, they don't get to take vacations. They don't have a lot of experiences. And so my job as their teacher is to create an environment where they feel safe, where they feel loved, and where they have a predictable schedule. Many of them, the first thing they look at in our day is when is break, where they get to have a snack, and then when is lunch. And so we really have to work hard at building relational bridges. So the bridges between the teachers, and the bridges among the students, and hopefully the bridges between the parents. So why is that classroom community important? Well, in our classroom, that classroom community becomes our family. We talk a lot about our classroom community is our family. It's our school family. And safety is a big issue. My students need to know that they feel safe. They're safe emotionally. They're safe physically. They're safe to learn. So we work a lot on digital citizenship. We work a lot on connecting with each other. In a community of safety, then they feel safe to share their feelings and their experiences. I'm quite sure that a lot of you have homeless students in your classroom. You may not even know that. Homelessness looks different in a lot of varieties. Homeless students very often don't want to admit that. No student wants to have the school bus dropping them off at the local shelter. And so we work really hard, and it's important for these students to know that they are not defined by their experiences. So for me, I mean, I love the Seesaw community, and I love all the ideas that we're getting, but Seesaw is also so much more than the assignments, and the activities that we do. Seesaw is about building a learning community, not just with the teachers, but building that learning community inside your classroom, and then sharing that out to others. And I think Seesaw is really good about promoting this. This is a great example. So a lot of times homeless students don't have birthday parties. They don't have special birthday cakes. They don't have presents and gifts. A lot of times mothers, mostly mothers, don't have the ability to go out and spend a lot of time on that. So every student at our school gets a birthday party. They get to pick the cake they want. They get to pick the theme of the party. Superheroes has been really big this year. They get to have a list of a few gifts that they might want, and most importantly, every student gets a party favor. So parties are big at our school. So, and then students love to give each other things. And so this is a situation where Katie has made a birthday card. She made it in pic collage and for Krishan, because his birthday was earlier this month. And I love the conversation that started here. So, Kayla loves it because, it's creative, and she loves anything pink. And Katie's the one that made it and was just wanting to wish Krishan a birthday. And then Amika, who is the best friend, who says, by the way, his favorite color is blue. This is another thing that we do in our classroom, is that we have, at the end of the day, at least once a week, we have what we do as our radio show. It's Room 108. You can find the link on our classroom webpage, which is classroom.shellyfryer.com. We use the Opinion app to create our radio shows, and it's really an awesome opportunity for students to reflect. We discuss things that we're learning. We discuss things that we're curious about. But if you want to know more about my classroom and the kids, you get to hear all of their voices. I put this link to the radio show in the Room 108 podcast folder so that they can go back and reflect on that as well. This is an unscripted thing. The only part of our radio show that is scripted is the introduction. And so it really helps in this situation to build fluency. Language delay is very common with homeless students. Many of them have been, I have one student that just came to me a few weeks ago, and he's never been enrolled in a school at all. He's 8 years old. And so language development sometimes is delayed. And so practicing oral fluency in language is really important. And this particular one was interesting because the students come up with the questions, and we've been talking about bullying. And the question was, have you ever been or seen a bully? Well, I was really amazed at how many students kind of confessed that they had been a bully before. And thanks to reading Jake Drake, Bully Buster, by Andrew Clements, they realized that a lot of times bullies bully because they are unhappy or angry themselves. And a lot of our students could really relate to that. When you have very little control over your environment, it does make you angry and causes anxiety. And a lot of times, that's why bullies bully. This is one of my favorite pictures. This is a student from last year. A big part of our Seesaw community is just sharing experiences. Our students don't have opportunities to go out and do a lot of things. In this picture, we were going fishing. We are very blessed to be able to take a lot of field trips. We were studying Oklahoma, and so we went out to a local lake, worked with the Fish and Wildlife Department. They brought all the fishing poles, taught us about all the Oklahoma native fish, and we got to fish. This last year, I had one connected parent last year, and this was my one connected parent, and she was really active on Seesaw. And look at her comment. She said, his dream has always been to go fishing. I'm so happy for my baby. So I took this picture, and on the bus ride home from the lake to the school, I posted each student's picture inside their folder, And before I had even made it back to the school, his parent had already seen it, had already liked it, had already commented on it. And you know what? For me and that one connected parent, we had a connection. And it is about building bridges with our parents, not just over the academics, but the shared experiences that we can have. This is another great example. It's again, it was our Oklahoma unit, but we worked with a program called Parks in Focus, where we went out and used digital cameras to take pictures. And this is what I call the three amigas. So these girls were close friends. Like I said earlier, many students who experience homelessness have been in sometimes 3 or 4 schools within a school year. Building sustainable, lasting relationships is extremely difficult. These girls happen to be stable, and they were with me from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, and they built a really strong friendship. Remember, a lot of kids don't have opportunities to have pictures of their friends, and when I have the classroom community folder and they can go back and they can see these friends, and it's like their own little personal portfolio of, and it just recalls those memories. Sometimes just holding that memory in your mind and having that reminder is very powerful for students. This is another, keeping students safe is a #1 priority for us. We do have permission to share. We make it very clear to parents, and we're about who we can share. We are of a private nonprofit school, and so we are also in our 4th year of one-to-one iPads. So we keep and we have a lot of students that come to us in address protection. That means they usually are coming from a domestic violence situation, and it could be possibly dangerous to share their faces. And so sometimes we have to get a little creative. And in this shirt, we call them red shirts, because when we have photographers coming into our building or we go on field trips, students wear school shirts, and so there's blue shirts, and then there are red shirts that have the same school logo. And red shirts are the students that we are not allowed to photograph them in order to post it. And so in this picture I have a red shirt, and I don't know, you could probably guess which one it is. It's the short Darth Vader. But we work really hard at making students not feel different from everybody else. They know why we can't photograph them, but we also want to make sure that they are a part of our classroom community. But our #1 job is to keep our students safe. This is one of my favorite activities, and I'm going to share it with you on a later slide. But being a part of a community means affirming one another and building each other up. One of the things we talk about in our classroom is we all have a hand in learning, so we are all experts in different areas, and so this was an activity that was meant to be very affirming to the students. I did it towards the end of the year, and what I did was the students wrote the description or the character traits for each other. And so at the end of the year, so each student was given a list of character traits and all of the students' names, and each student described that student. And then they took those character traits and they put it into a favorite app. It's a word cloud app called ABCA. That's the iPad app, but I know that there are other ways to do that on a desktop or a Chromebook as well as a web page. But so the classroom described each other's character traits, and then the student we gathered all of those up, and then they put it into the word cloud, and then they read it back. So this student said, Amika is quiet, she's witty, she's hardworking, she's loving. So she got to see the way that other students see her, and then she got to be proud of that, and hopefully held that with her. This is a wonderful activity. It went into our classroom community because this is the way the community felt about her. And it was just a really powerful way. And then, of course, I can print that out with the QR code, and Amika can take it home with her, and her mother can listen to that at home. So another thing that is really important is to know our students' likes, to know what they're curious about. We have a I'm curious folder. And so my job as a teacher is to find out this, the unique curiosities and the things that they're interested in and things they like to do. In this case, I had a student who loves space, and he loves SpaceX, and he loved learning about anything outer space. And I have a favorite news app for students. It's called Newsomatic. It's a daily newspaper for kids, written specifically for kids. And a lot of times when I see something that I know a student is going to like, or it's going to be unique to him, then I will, in this case, I took a screenshot and added it to his folder. But just that, when a student knows that, hey, my teacher, she knows that I love space, and here is something she is spending just for me, that can make them feel really special. And so, as well as other students being able to see that and share in that experience as well. So again, Newsomatic, one of my favorite news apps for kids. Also sharing student voice, and I think all of us who are Seesaw users know the power of student voice, and how powerful it is to be able to audio record. I don't know about you, but that is like one of my #1 features in Seesaw. But in this case, again, we were reading the Wonder book by R.J. Palacio, and in this little video, I was able to find and share that. We usually watch these videos together as a class and then have a classroom discussion about them. And then later, I'll go back and flip it into their Seesaw so that they can go back and watch it later. But in this little interview, this is the author of the book, and she's talking to a group of elementary students in New York about her book and some of the feelings and what it's like to show kindness to others. And so I love the comment that Katie made in this. It says, I like this video because it's right. People are special in their own way. I really like this video. You know, in this video, you're hearing from the student voices, from students in the school. And I just think that students listening to other students is important. It also is very important, especially for our students who are in the poverty, to see outside the walls of their classroom, to know that there's a world out there and there are kids out there who think and who feel just like they do. So just listening to each other and using student voices. Well, all right, so I have a call to action for you. This is the activity that I showed you just a little bit ago, and it's a great activity to do at the end of the school year. So I know a lot of people talk about character traits in all grade levels. So this is kind of like your recipe. This is what I challenge you to do. So, and what you do is provide students with a list of their classmates' names. I gave my students a list of positive character traits. And so after we had talked a lot about character traits, and then each student, right, I did this analog old school. I just wrote a piece of paper, listed all the names, had a chart or a graph, and I know there's probably a Google form or something I could figure out to do to make it easier, but in this case I was just doing it on a piece of paper. And then I took all of the descriptions for each student and I typed it up for each individual student. So all of those words that their classmates have used. And then we on the iPad we used word cloud, and then the students typed it in. Now I had the students type in their own name 5 times, because the more a word comes in, the bigger it is on their word cloud. And then they had a great time, you know, designing it and deciding what colors they liked and how they wanted the angles, and then share that. It's a great thing to hang up in the hallway at the end of the school year. It's a great way to affirm each student. So this is a really neat activity, and I think it would be fun. Also, you know, after they do that, make sure that they're recording their voices and reading it back. And you know, this is who I am, and this is how people see me. And I just think that was one of the most powerful things, is just knowing that their classmates see them as something maybe different than they see themselves. So to end this up, this is one of the only, this is a very special student. And he has lived with his family. This is a single mom. She has 6 children, all under the age of 10. So this student is the oldest student. And one day we were reading out loud. I was reading to the students. We were reading Wonder. I was reading it to them. It's a classroom read aloud, and they come in after lunch, and we just kind of use a chill time. And so they like to get dry erase, and they like to draw pictures as I'm reading. So in this picture, he brings it up to me after I finished, and he said, "Hey, you want to see my house?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to." And so he goes in to describe his house for me. Remember, they live at the local shelter. It's a mom and 6 kids in one small room. They live in bunk beds. And so he was looking forward to the home that they were getting. They're working with what we call our Homeless Alliance. And so he was describing, it's interesting because here's a vocabulary thing. He describes the top part as the basement. I didn't have the heart to tell him it was an attic because he was so excited about it. You notice the middle layer here are the bunk beds, the bed. So that's the bedroom. He's still thinking they're all going to live together. But in the bottom, this was the special part. His mom is in the kitchen cooking. There were 2 plates on the table. He has a toy box. Students who are homeless and students in poverty don't have toys. They move so frequently, and they really don't have a lot of toys, and that's why it's so important for us to have things for them to play and use their imaginations. But he has a toy box in here, and he has his family all together. And then here's a great story, because just last week his mother found permanent supportive housing. So now there's a room for all the boys, there's a room for all the girls, and mother has her own private room. And so I'm really excited. They're still waiting on getting furniture. They don't have any furniture yet. We work with several agencies in our area that will provide things for them. But that big smile says it all. He has his home now. And he was sharing that with all of us, and I think that's a really important thing. So we have about 4 minutes. I can definitely tell more stories, but do we have any questions?
Oh, Shelly, I just want to say, and I know everyone listening is probably thinking the same exact thing. I think having you here has been a gift and an inspiration, I think, for all of us to hear your focus on really building that community of learners in your classroom, and really supporting their needs. I think a lot of teachers at this time of the year, we're getting into mid-April and May, we start to really get overwhelmed with all those things we need to do, like assessments, and we have to get this done, and our lists are so long. I think I just appreciate your coming to share your ideas and just your overall perspective on how you approach learning with your students. I think it's just a great thing for all of us to hear at this point in the year. And just remember, of course, that we are building these relationships with our students. So, whew, we have we have a few minutes for questions. So if you do have a question for Shelly that you'd like her to elaborate a little bit more on, go ahead and type your question into the question box, and we'll get through as many as we can here. So first question comes from Lori. She's saying, thank you so much for sharing. Would you say that you use Seesaw to personalize learning with your class?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's one of the big powerful things for them, is to take that. We use a lot of apps to personalize. We have a lot of adaptive apps, but Seesaw is the place where I can get to know the interest of the students, and so I think that it's really important. Once I get a feel for a class, I don't have a set curriculum. I'm very fortunate to be able to kind of go in whatever direction. And so being able to personalize learning to the students themselves as a group, but also to the students themselves as individual learners is really important. So yeah, we have a passion project at the end of the year where students get to kind of dive in deep to what they're really interested in. We do it in our Maker Studio time. So, you know, I have students learning to sew and students who teach themselves to dance. And so being able to show and share, they have to document what they're learning. They have to come up with a project. So, and all of those are done on an individual basis. So.
Wonderful. So Sarah has a question, and I'm glad she's asking this because I noticed this as well. So she wants to know about some of your folders that you use in Seesaw, because one of the things that I noticed is you have really great folders, and to me, it really, again, clarifies how you're using Seesaw in your classroom. A couple that maybe you can tell us more about them because I think they're unique beyond maybe what teachers typically use.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, this is trial and error. This is, how many ever years I've used Seesaw. And I started out by having a reading folder, a math folder,
Yeah.
and, yada yada. But then later I found that, especially when I wanted to show people certain items, I could never find anything. I had to guess, gosh, did we do that in October or did we do that? I couldn't remember. So this year I decided to be very specific. That way I could go back and find specific projects. Like we do big Black History project where we create our own ebook. So Black History project, I knew exactly if I wanted to find that activity as evidence for a student, I could find it. The I'm Curious or the book club, or now we have book snap. So I do it specifically to the activity or the lesson, and that's mainly for myself so that I can go back and find certain items when I need to. So
Wonderful.
whatever, yeah, so that's what I like to do.
So Paul is just saying that she just loves hearing your stories. You're such an inspiration. So she wanted to share that. Um, and Peggy is saying she's deeply touched by all of the stories you shared. So thank you. So Shelly, again, I want to thank you for coming. I know that you are more than willing to connect with people on Twitter. She has her Twitter handle here, and obviously she also has her website listed. She would love to continue the conversation with you outside of this webinar, I'm sure of it. And just note you will get the slides as well from Shelly and this recording as well. So Shelly, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
and sharing your story with us here tonight.
My pleasure.